All right, folks, we are live right here on the Sports Talk Nation. Well, Michael Cohen here with you, and we got a special guest joining us today. Chris Hogan of 27 Outs Baseball will speak to us today to talk about a little bit about baseball. As we're going to talk about the Boston Red Sox and their triumph over the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Really was a World Series that, if you're talking about ratings, I know a lot of people made a big deal about ratings early on in the series. It was kind of a slow start to the series, but if you want to find three games that were as entertaining as you could find in a baseball postseason, those three games in Los Angeles, Game 3, Game 4, Game 5, as good as it gets when it comes to baseball and postseason. And, Chris, in a year where we saw a lot of different kind of things going on in Major League Baseball in the postseason, we saw a lot more heavy use of the bullpen. We saw maybe, to an extent, some impatience by a lot of managers when it comes to their starters. We saw the use of the opener a lot in the postseason. Those last three games, if you are a purist in baseball, kind of took us back a little bit to the days where starters went out there and dominated a game. And that's kind of what we saw, at least from the Boston standpoint, in this series.
Yeah, it's good to be back with you on the show, Mike. And, I think I went on a lot of radio shows this summer.
Oh, yeah.
And, even on our shows at 27 Outs, it was a big pet peeve of mine, this opener closer. But obviously the Tampa Bay Rays were 15 games over 500 for some reason, obviously. And they did a successful one. And some teams copied them late in the year and stuff. The Brewers did a little bit, the Oakland A's, like you mentioned. So, but yeah, it's nice to see kind of how, the Red Sox, Alex Cora was pushing all the right buttons with David Price, and Chris Sale, when he could, gave it what he could. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez in Game 4, on that spot start, he did pretty well, except for that Puig home run in the sixth. Did very well. And, it was just a revitalization, I think, just for a guy like David Price, with all the fear and all the postseason woes he had in recent past. Seeing him pitch, get 9 strikeouts in one of his starts during the postseason, against the Dodgers, it was really revitalizing. Evaldi doing what he did out of the bullpen. We all expected him to start Game 4 after Porcello, but obviously he came in pretty much pitched a complete game in that 18-inning game. And, yeah, it was very tiring, if you ask me. Never saw a postseason game like that. But, yeah, Alex Cora was pushing all the right buttons. Not just in the Dodgers series, but the Astros series, and even in the Yankee series, we saw some great starting pitching from the Red Sox. So I think everything was pushing right. I think out of the 4 World Series teams, I think this is probably the most talented. It was probably not the most team that wanted to win it the most, but in terms of, obviously we saw the 04 team won and had the most hunger, I think, but I think this is just the most talented team of the Red Sox 4 championships you've seen, and it obviously showed what the depth they had this year.
Yeah, when you think back about all the Red Sox teams that have won World Series here of late, one of the interesting stats that was brought up even during the broadcast by Fox is that in each case, or at least in three of the cases anyway, you had a first-year manager running the team. 2004, Terry Francona, of course, his first year in Boston. First year for John Farrell in 2013. Now the first year for Alex Cora. So that was an interesting piece of symmetry right there. And you're right. I think just pound for pound, talent-wise, this is easily the best Boston Red Sox team of all those. Is it as colorful as the 04 team? Probably not. But just from the talent standpoint, it's as good as any. And, in a year where Boston really dominated all year, 108 wins, there was a lot of pressure on them this postseason, I thought. A lot of people thought that the Yankees had a chance against them. The Red Sox won that in 4. A lot of people thought Houston was going to have a chance against them, and then they won Game 1 in Boston, did Houston. And a lot of people thought, here come the Astros again. And Boston withstood that, won 4 straight. So it seemed like in each case in the playoffs, people were wondering, can this Red Sox team keep it going? And especially with all the pressure of coming off of a 108-win season, and they were more than capable of doing that and finishing off a 119-win season, which I would imagine has to be the most wins in a season, postseason, regular season combined, in Red Sox history.
Yeah, I think, and obviously with the Patriots losing the Super Bowl to the Eagles, the Boston fan base was even hungrier just to come back, because they had 10 championships, I believe, up since 2002. and this makes it 11. So with this Red Sox championship, but yeah, I think it all started in spring training. Really, if you ask me, I mean, the Red Sox kind of and went into spring training, and they really still hadn't added a big key free agent. Here comes J.D. Martinez, 5 years, $125 million later. And I really think that's kind of rejuvenated the Red Sox team, because we saw David Ortiz retired a couple years ago, and they kind of really didn't have that middle-of-the-order bat. And just everyone kept on saying, yes, Mookie Betts, Benintendi. I mean, they had some Dustin Pedroia come in, and he missed most of the year. But they really needed a leader in that clubhouse, and J.D. Martinez really exemplified it. And I just think Alex Cora, coming to Boston under Terry Francona, being a quality utility guy from 2005 to 2009, really just kind of saw what Terry Francona did as a manager. And I'm not saying he kind of was kind of a tutor or a mentee in terms of that position, but I think he learned a lot under the Terry Francona era. I mean, that was a very talented team, guys like Youkilis and Manny Ortiz. So he kind of got an early glimpse of what it is like to be a manager and lead a successful team. And we haven't seen a lot of, besides Francona and Farrell, we haven't seen a lot of first-year managers win a World Series. And I think Alex Cora really just pushed the right buttons at the right time. I mean, I knew coming into the season the Red Sox were heavy favorites to win the division, but I knew the Yankees would be up there as well.
Yep.
We thought Toronto would probably. So I think the Red Sox really, with the late addition of Martinez and Cora, just his experience being in Boston in the past, I think those two big factors really helped the Red Sox this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you take a look at this World Series specifically, and the one thing that Cora did that I really liked was after Game 3, after the epicness of Game 3, going 18 innings, almost 7.5, 8 hours of baseball, and he was effusive in his praise of the way his team played. Talked about how well Nathan Eovaldi pitched, and look, Eovaldi was fantastic. He certainly gave himself an opportunity to get a big contract with the way he pitched so well in that Game 3 of the World Series, gave Boston a chance to win. And even though Boston had lost the game on the home run by Max Muncy, people were asking Alex Cora, does this change things in the series? Does this affect you guys? Is this going to be a downer for you? And he said no to every question. He just said, just a game, guys. And it was just kind of a relaxed, I wouldn't say arrogant, but just a calm, cool confidence that he had, and it just kind of reverberated throughout the entire clubhouse. And it just carried over really every day throughout the course of this season, and obviously in this series, in this case, going in from Game 3 to Game 4.
Yeah, I think with Eovaldi, I mean, the Red Sox were kind of taking a gamble when they acquired him towards the trade deadline. I mean, he had pitched well with Tampa Bay. They gave up Jalen Beeks, who pretty much is a long relief type guy, not a big name prospect, but decent guy. But and Eovaldi coming off 2 Tommy John surgeries, I think over the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, hadn't pitched last in 2017, and we weren't really knowing what to expect from Eovaldi coming over from Tampa. Obviously, pitched 2 great games against the Yankees in a Rays uniform, and I think he did very well. He was throwing 97 to 100 miles an hour. I mean, curveball, slider working very well, secondary pitches. And I think, I fully expected, covering baseball, just being a baseball fan in general, I really thought Eovaldi would actually be starting probably Game 3 or 4. And when Cora used him in Game 1 and 2, a very gutsy move, this guy was throwing 98, 99 in the 8th inning, throwing 15, 16 to 20 pitches. And he was getting those Dodgers hitters out. I mean, we know the Dodgers struck out a ton during the regular season. They did during the postseason as well. So I think the Red Sox knew that, and using Eovaldi's arm before he got to Kimbrel, I think it was a very gutsy move that you could say, but it worked effectively. And I know a lot of Red Sox fans also wanted him to possibly close out the final game, but it was very rewarding to see a guy like Chris Sale having some injuries during the regular season and not pitch down their stretch in September. Kind of close that out, and obviously he did very well, striking out a couple batters in that 9th inning to clinch it for the Red Sox. But yeah, Eovaldi's going to get a big contract, but I give it Cora a lot of credit, even what he did with Rick Porcello in the Astros series to pitch him in the 8th inning, and it obviously worked. So I think he did the right moves. Hopefully the Red Sox can re-sign Eovaldi. That's going to be the biggest thing, because he could get maybe 80, 90 million. We'll see. But it was a gutsy move by Cora to use his starters in the bullpen, but obviously worked out. Unlike the Astros series last year with Sale and Price. I
mean, it was kind of what we saw from the Astros last year. I mean, you mentioned them. The Astros would go out there. They would pull starters out of the bullpen, like guys like Morton, and they throw Keuchel in the bullpen last year. we saw that here with the Red Sox. I mean, even David Price, the day before he was going to pitch in Game 5, he's out there in the bullpen getting ready to come in for Game 4 just in case the game keeps going. I mean, there was a point in that game where it looked like we were going to head into extra innings before the Red Sox took the lead for good. I mean, that he was ready to go. So I really like it. It was a gamble, but you know what? For Alex Cora, it was like, you know what? I got to get this win now. Why do I have to wait for a Game 6 or a Game 7 at home? This is my chance right now to win this thing today. And I just like that. I like that aggressiveness by Cora. We really don't see that from a lot of managers who are like, well, if I play my cards right for this day and for that day, let me play this like a regular series. You can't do that. You got to try to go out there and win it right away.
Yeah, I think out of all the first-year managers, Alex Cora was probably the gutsiest, I guess you could say. I know I keep coming back to that word, but you didn't see like an Aaron Boone or a Gabe Kapler or even a Mickey Callaway do those type of moves. I mean, obviously, I know the postseason is different from the regular season, but I know a lot of Red Sox fans didn't give him heat. Actually, it's surprisingly. I mean, New England's a very rich sports town, a lot of hate, a lot of drama. You'll see in the tabloids, papers, and stuff, but. Like I said, nothing he did. I mean, everything he did just worked. I mean, I don't want to say he's a perfectionist this postseason. I mean, even the regular season, he was pushing all the right moves. But with a talented team, I mean, you could rest guys in September and have a double-A type lineup out there when it needed. I mean, you saw guys like Brandon Phillips out there hit a home run, and in September. I mean, it's just the depth they had this year. I think is really going on, and I know using David Price in the eighth inning, they didn't have a guy like a super lefty like an Andrew Miller like the Cleveland did a couple of years ago, or a Zach Britton like the Yankees had. But regardless, I mean, he was still throwing 95, 96, and still having a very good curveball and secondary pitches. I mean, his curveball was really good this postseason. And I think he had a big monkey on his back to kind of show Red Sox fans, you're making $30 million a year. I mean, he had a very good regular season, if you ask me. I mean, I still think his first year in Boston, regular season-wise, was still his best. But he was very good. I mean, this year he definitely earned $30 million, I think. And being versatile, I mean, just listen to what Alex Cora had to tell him. I mean, not making any complaints, because I know he's had a little bit of troubles with the Boston media in the past, a little bad perception. But he kind of just showed himself this year, and I think everything just came together for David Price. And I know there was a lot of Red Sox fans, a lot of people saying who should have been the MVP of the World Series.
Yeah.
I mean, it was either him, Pierce, but I think it could have been a co-MVP with him and Steve Pierce. I mean, that's how good I think Price was. And give Cora credit for using those gutsy decisions to make the most out of David Price this postseason.
Yeah, I mean, he was just unbelievable. I mean, he went 3-1 in the playoffs. I mean, he was dominant in the World Series, dominant in Game 5, and when you have that kind of matchup, Price versus Kershaw, it's easy to sit there and kind of snicker and saying, "Oh, well, this game's going to be a bullpen game because of the history of both of these guys in the playoffs." I will give some credit to Kershaw. He has pitched well in this postseason. I know he gets a lot of flack because he doesn't win a lot of games in the postseason, and he went 0-2 in this World Series. But in both instances, he did pitch well in those games. He just went up and ran into a buzzsaw here against the Red Sox, and of course, in Game 5 in David Price. But for Price, 7 innings, 3 hits, a run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Gave up the home run early in the first inning, settled down, and it was just zeros after that. You really have to feel good for a guy like that because, like you just mentioned it, to come into Boston to make as much money as he is, $30 million a year, have all the pressure in the world to be the ace, and now here this year, he's no longer looked upon as the ace. It's Chris Sale's team. So he's just kind of that piece. He's just that one of the other guys. So I think a little bit of pressure may have been off of him.
Yeah, and I also think one key thing that he wasn't last year was healthy. I mean, his first year in Boston, 2016, he was healthy. And, him and Sale pretty much the first 3 months of the year were pretty much, I think, the best tandem in baseball. I mean, or arguably one of the best tandem. And when Chris Sale went down with that injury, shoulder injury, back in, I think, August it was, Sale kind of just Price just took the lead and just pitched very effectively. And I think he just, saw that, a guy like Alex Cora, you don't have to do a ton. Just go out, have a good mindset. And, I mean, they even give a guy like Dayton Levangie, their longtime bullpen catcher, become pitching coach. I think he did a very good job, and a lot of people didn't give him credit for it as well. And you saw guys like Porcello pitch better in the second half. Eduardo Rodriguez, when he was healthy, he pitched very well. And Evaldi, I think everyone just fed off each other. It was just the chemistry of the clubhouse. I mean, regardless if you're a bench player or you're the last guy, in the bullpen. I mean, I think everyone just fed off each other. it's not just price. I mean, you saw guys like, Steve Pearce really come out of nowhere. I know,
Oh, yeah.
he's been a journeyman his whole career. Really just come out, hit big home runs after home runs. I mean, Christian Vasquez, who didn't even have a great regular season at bats, he was hitting the ball lights out. I mean, Bradley with some big at bats.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Corey really just shuffled the lineup well, and he knew where to use guys, and I think that's really worked out. Even when Moreland hit that big home run in L.A. as well.
Yes.
I mean, you weren't expecting that kind of stuff, but it was just the Red Sox year, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was, and I'm glad you mentioned the Mitch Moreland home run because a lot of people forget about that. That was really the turning point in the game because they're down 4-0. They had the Puig home run and the celebration. You had Rodriguez throwing his glove into the mound, and watching that, I kind of sat there and thought, well, this series is definitely going 7 games now. I couldn't imagine the Red Sox coming back from down 4-0, but they get the home run right away from Moreland. They eventually tie the game on the Pierce home run, and then Devers. You can't forget what Devers did. That big at bat, pinch hit at bat in a tough spot, and with the pitcher coming up right behind him, and he gets a big base hit to give the Red Sox the lead. That was a huge turn at bat for him in that World Series.
Yeah, just think even Devers with that home run in the Astros series against Justin Verlander kind of sealed the Red Sox series in that regard. But yeah, I mean, you expect. I mean, the Red Sox, pretty much had that depth all year with Eduardo Nunez and Devers. You kind of shuffled back and forth all year, and look at Nunez in Game 2, I believe it was at home against the Dodgers. I mean, hit him off Alex Wood in that big home run to put the Red Sox, I think, up by 4 runs at that time. I mean, and then Devers, like I said, the go-ahead RBI single in L.A. as well. I mean, yeah, it definitely helped coming into the series, I actually thought the Dodgers had a better bench than the Red Sox. I mean, even though you had guys like Brock Holt, guys that have been there, been playoff tested, you think with the Dodgers' depth, though, so many righty-lefties, but they were kind of, I didn't really like Dave Roberts' misusage, pulling a guy like Chris Taylor or Kike Hernandez in the, middle of the part of the game and putting to Cody Bellinger or vice versa. I mean, I think that, it's not really seen around baseball. And what Alex Cora did was use guys effectively. He knew Mitch Moreland has had some injuries in the second half and didn't really play him and really just rode the hot hand with Steve Pearce. And it obviously worked. So I think depth-wise, I mean, the Dodgers were clearly at a better bench and all that stuff, but I think the Alex Cora's usage of the guys like a Nunez, like a Moreland, like a Pierce, I think that really helped the Red Sox in the end because you even saw a guy like Christian Vasquez who never played a day in his life at first base, just to have Sandy Leon, your best defensive catcher, calling the last couple innings behind the plate. I mean, it was really gutsy, but I think the Red Sox were more effective in their use of the bench and obviously helped out in winning more games in this World Series.
And the one thing that players feed off of is when the manager trusts them and they're willing to give them that opportunity and that kind of leeway to say, hey, look, I know you're out of position. I know it's a tough spot for you, but you know what? I really need you to do the best you can at that spot. This is a World Series. So these guys go out there, they feed off of the confidence that Alex Cora shows in them. And that's really, again, you mentioned it earlier, that's a big reason why this team has been so good all season going up to this point. So everything that we saw in those 3 games in L.A. was everything we have seen from the Red Sox all season long. Clutch hitting, good pitching, good starting pitching, of course, good bullpen, and just the ability to trust in one another, and that's what got them over the hump in this series against the Dodgers.
Yeah, and I also, I hate to give heat to some players, but, I know a lot of Red Sox fans, a lot of people on Twitter, Facebook were saying Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts really didn't show up in the World Series. I mean, Betts had that big home run in that game-clinching series win for the Red Sox over the Dodgers, but I think it was other guys, like you mentioned, the Devers, the Morelands, the Pierces that really just stood up. I mean, I know some of these guys have never played as much baseball in their life, and there was a lot of pressure on young players like a Bogaerts, like a Betts in their mid-20s, and, they wanted to obviously shine to the spotlight. But, give a lot of credit, in regards, yes, their bats may have not been good, but defensively they were very good in the World Series. Bogaerts and Betts both made some very good plays. Betts was shifted over from right to center. I mean, and J.D. Martinez even had to play some outfield. And, they were beside that one bad play. I mean, I think all 3 of them did very well. So, I know they got a lot of heat, but they helped out in other guards. They made a lot of great defensive plays, and other guys like Pierce, Moreland, Vasquez, and Devers and Nunez, guys like that really stepped up, and I think it helped. So even though despite some negative, reputation there, they made up for it, and the depth just really outshined the Dodgers in this regard.
Hey, look, I mean, sometimes you have to have other guys just step up. I mean, the closest team that you can compare this team to might be the '98 Yankees, and that's just from the the total win standpoint, the ability to go out there and just dominate on a daily basis, have different guys step up in big spots. I mean, the '98 Yankees, a lot of people forget Derek Jeter, who always put up big postseason numbers, only hit .235 in the playoffs in 1998. He only had 3 RBIs, didn't hit a home run, only had 1 double. He didn't do much in the postseason that year. But no one thinks about that. No one talks about that because they think about what Scott Brosius did in that World Series. They think about the way Andy Pettitte pitched in that World Series. No one talks about the fact that probably at the time, the biggest young star of the Yankees, Derek Jeter, didn't do anything in that postseason. So yeah, Mookie Betts maybe didn't have the big postseason. JD Martinez kind of got slow going in that World Series. The fact is, those guys produced when they had to, and they had everybody else, as you said, step up in a big spot.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of, you mentioned that '98 Yankees team. It kind of reminds me of what is like a Shane Spencer this year's Steve Pierce.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. A super utility guy that just basically outshines and comes into the spotlight, and has a good postseason, but and then be effective for them a couple of years later in a couple of ways. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it goes to show that, I mean, even Dave Dombrowski got a lot of heat during the trade deadline. The Red Sox could have got a Zach Britton. They could have got some other big name guys, but you see in late June they got Steve Pierce for Santiago Espinal. Could be maybe a decent utility guy someday, but that's a couple years down the line. I mean, it wasn't a sexy household name to get excited about, but it paid off. I mean, Steve Pierce always hits lefties well. He can play good defense at times, at first base. And then, going after Evaldi, I mean, it was a low-risk move, like I mentioned earlier in the show, but it obviously paid off. So I think you got to give Dave Dombrowski a lot of credit. I mean, he's had some ups and downs during his time, won the World Series with the Marlins, made some good moves there, but his time in Detroit, didn't really have a great bullpen in the postseason, and it came to hinder him. But I think he pulled all the right buttons. I mean, I think you got to give the front office a lot of credit this year as well. I mean, it was the biggest names at the trade deadline, but you got the JD Martinez signing earlier in March, and then Alex Cora. I think those two guys were probably your biggest offseason moves, and it really helped. But don't get me wrong, Evaldi and Pierce really made it like that part B of the acquisition to complete this team. So give Dombrowski a lot of credit. I think this is the best roster he's probably compiled in his 4 years in Boston.
Absolutely, and a little bit of pressure off of him too, because this for so many years this was Theo Epstein's team, and now he comes in here. Dombrowski with a very good resume, with the Marlins, with the Tigers, and to go out there and get it done with the Red Sox, that's huge for him. But now we move forward into 2019 and take a look at this offseason, and the Red Sox are going to have some interesting decisions to make. Craig Kimbrell's a free agent, Stephen Pierce, free agent, Evaldi we mentioned before. Who would the Red Sox going to try to keep out of the guys that are free agents from this year's team, and where do you think they need to improve in certain spots?
Yeah, I think from a mainstay perspective, I think out of those three guys, everyone's going to say Craig Kimbrell, but I understand he had a bad postseason for the most part. It was a lot of high pressure, a lot of nerve wracking situations for him. But I know he was overused a little bit towards the end of the year, and for the Red Sox in the postseason. But and a lot of people say, a closer is going to demand about 5 years, $80 million or to 100. Kind of just look at the Kenley Jansen, Aroldis Chapman type contracts. So the short answer, I would say probably Kimbrell, just because I think, he's only 30 years old. He still can throw 97, 98, good curveball, can still strike out a lot of people. But, his walks and I think and maybe command could be an issue going forward, but maybe next year the Red Sox can use him in a better scenarios and stuff like that and get the best out of him. But I also think, just re-sign Steve Pierce. I mean, just think Moreland's on another 1 year deal. I think he's one more year for $6 million. That platoon worked out very well for the Red Sox. And, they don't really have a young first baseman. I'm not going to say, I don't think they're going to go out and go, sell the farm system and get a Paul Goldschmidt, who's rumored to be in trade talks. But I think, a couple, they still also have Joe Kelly, who could be up in the air, to bring back as well. I think another lefty out of the bullpen, I think that could really, do you go back and try to see if Andrew Miller can be a resurgence? I mean, he was like 2-3 years ago. I think either him or Zach Britton out of the bullpen would be very good. I'm curious to see what they're going to do at catcher. I mean, you got Swihart, Leon, and Vasquez. I mean, do you kind of see what, I don't know what the future holds. I mean, I would love to see a JP Realmuto. I mean, I know there's been up and down rumblings about him being traded, but I think right now it's probably the bullpen. You have to look the lefty out of the bullpen. Another righty, I think, maybe out of the bullpen as well. I mean, I think their bullpen's still going to be very good, and the closer's position. And then also I think, maybe another backup outfielder as well, just to see behind Bradley, Betts and Benintendi as well. Maybe another right-handed hitting outfield, see what happens there. So I think depth-wise, they're very good. I mean, prospect-wise, I don't see really anyone coming up next year. Maybe Michael Chavis type, but I think they got Nunez under control as a backup infielder. Brock Holt's under contract. So infield depth, I think, is very good. So I think probably the bullpen and maybe another starting rotation. But I don't know if they're going to hand out another $80 million to Evaldi.
Yeah.
I mean, he may get another big contract. But they'll be in the market for another rotation guy, I think, towards the end of it. But we'll see. I think they may do some surprises. But I think this team's really good. I mean, going into next year, I think the Yankees and the Red Sox are still going to be talented for years to come. So I think 2019 is going to be fun for both teams.
Yeah, I agree. And this offseason, a lot of people are talking about. It's been, we've been talking about this for a while now in baseball with this class, especially with the two headliners being Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. Now, it's pretty safe to say I've seen a lot of reports that the Yankees aren't going to go in on Bryce Harper. They're probably not going to go in on Machado either because, again, the money they have committed to guys like Giancarlo Stanton, the money they're going to have to pay out to guys like Aaron Judge and alike in the coming years, plus the uncertainty about what Didi Gregorius' injuries concerns, whether he's going to be ready to come back in June or not. That's going to be a big issue. So I don't see them, unless the Yankees just do it because of gluttony for that matter. I don't see them going out there and signing Manny Machado. So I think for the most part, you're going to see these two teams just kind of beef up on depth, beef up on bullpen, beef up on in the case of the Red Sox closer. I think Kimbrel is really as close to a must. If there is a must that the Red Sox have to sign, they probably would have to sign him. Next best guy out there is Cody Allen, coming off of a rough year with the Cleveland Indians this year, with an ERA of 4.5. So I think he'll definitely come back. I think they'll find a way to structure a deal that will be workable for them. But I don't see that, like you said, I don't see that big contract, that big name, unless there's a trade or something, going to either team here between now and January.
Yeah, I don't see either Red Sox and Yankees going after Zach Greinke. I know, but you'd have to have the Diamondbacks eat up a lot of that money. I think it's at $30 million over the next 2 years or whatever. But I could see the Yankees maybe going after re-sign Sabathia, J. Happ, guys that were successful for them. They even heard Patrick Corbin. Maybe Corbin could get a 70, 80 million over 4 or 5 years. He's still young enough, throws hard, and good secondary pitches. So I think the Yankees have a little bit more of a need of a rotation, add to their rotation than the Red Sox. Because you got Sale, Price, Porcello, Rodriguez, and then the Red Sox probably need another fifth starter, I think, after that. But I think the Yankees have more of a need in the rotation. Bullpen wise, I think both teams can upgrade. Because the Yankees, like I said, have Robertson as a free agent. I mean, you don't know how Chapman's going to be next year. I mean, you have guys like Chad Green. I mean, so they still have good depth in there. But I think both teams specifically need a lefty out of this bullpen as well. And then, I don't know. I think, do they bring back Echeverria as, on a cheap 1-year contract until Gregorius is ready in the summertime? It could be a possibility, or Jose Iglesias maybe as well. So there's a couple of cheap options out there. But no, I don't see them going after a Harper or Machado. I mean, I know a lot of Yankees fans would like that. I think this is the big offseason that the Phillies could. I know live in the rumors a while, but they could possibly get both Harper and Machado, and that could put them over the edge, if you ask me, over the Braves maybe. But it's going to be fun. I think this offseason is going to be interesting. I mean, you don't have a lot of sexy names after Machado or a Harper, so but this Dallas Keuchel and Kershaw, if he opts out, obviously that'll give a little bit more headlines. But it'll be interesting. Maybe there'll be some interesting trades this offseason. But I think you could possibly see a round 2 of both teams winning 100 games next year. I really think the Red Sox and Yankees are that talented.
You could see that. I mean, let's also not forget the Rays. They won 90 games this year, so they're very much in the mix. So they gave the Yankees a lot of trouble. I mean, I think the Yankees were a game or two under 500 against the Rays overall in the season. They had a lot of trouble with them. So they're a young team. They're not going to add a lot of big payroll unless they can get somebody on a reasonable contract. So you're looking at three teams right now in the top of this division that have a lot of good young talent, and they're going to be really dominant in this league. And I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris. I don't think we've had a division where we've had three teams get to the postseason. 2 wild cards and then the division champion. I don't think that's happened yet. I mean, it certainly is possible with these three teams moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think you have either. I mean, I can't recall any two same division playing a wild card against each other. But I mean, obviously, if the Rays can make the bullpenning, types or opener work, I mean, besides having a guy like Blake Snell as your pretty much only starter that can pitch 200 innings, it's interesting. I mean, the Rays they had a good year for what it is. I mean, they had the Diego Castillo had like 48 games, 24 starts, but he only had like 76 total innings. I mean, that's stuff you've never seen before. But give Kevin Cash a lot of credit. I mean, he came into this year with a lot of up and down roster. I mean, he got the best out of C.J. Cron, Tommy Pham. I think Austin Meadows is on the rise. So I think offensively they have some talent there, but it really was with their pitching. And Blake Snell, I think, is going to get overlooked for the Cy Young Award, but this guy really came into his own and just pitched well against the Yankees, Red Sox, and pretty much anyone he came. So it'll be interesting to see what they do when. I think once they get a new stadium, hopefully within the next 3 to 4 years, hopefully they can add some payroll. But I think right now it's still the Red Sox and Yankees division to battle for.
Absolutely. Chris Hogan joining us, of course, here from 27 Outs. Last thing, Chris, if you start a baseball, if you and I started a baseball team tomorrow, should we make Scott Boras our general manager? Just, of course, with the Mets.
Should we go Brody Van Wagenen, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that is.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that was interesting because I'm trying to think. What is he? Is he even 40 years old yet, or I forgot.
He's 44, but yeah.
Yeah, and he's represented Grom, I believe. Is that his most high-profile client, I believe?
He's represented I was blown away by the names that he was representing. I mean, he represented Cespedes, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Todd Frazier. Apparently, he was in on the workings of the Robbie Cano deal in Seattle. So, I mean, he's had a big impact, to say the least, in baseball as far as getting guys signed. And now he's going to be a general manager, be on the other side of the fence. I'm just to say it'd be interesting to see how he's going to handle that would be an understatement. I mean, it's just conflict of interest and everything else, for that matter.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever seen. I mean, we've seen the Wilpons do so many crazy moves. I mean, Omar Minaya and Sandy Alderson had a pretty good run as Mets GM. To give him credit for the teams that made the playoffs in the World Series 2014, 2015, or 2016, time frame. That those 3 years were pretty good under him, and glad to hear he's doing well with his cancer, remission from cancer. So. I definitely think it's really out of the blue because any 4 major sports, hockey, baseball, basketball, the NHL, I don't think I've ever heard of any sports agent become a general manager. I mean, you've seen guys like, maybe become a scout or something like that, but it's really, I don't know, everyone I keep reading say it's kind of a Wilpons bias type move. I mean, thinking, because he has DeGrom and the players that you mentioned, he's negotiated a contract. Maybe he'll, but what does he know about the analytical side of baseball? What does he know about scouting, all that stuff? That's the things I keep reading about. And it does come into play, I think. I mean, how can he learn this stuff on the fly? And he says he'll win year in and year out, but, the Mets were a mess besides DeGrom, Syndergaard, and a couple other guys. My first choice would have been Chan Bloom. I really think Chan Bloom just came out of nowhere, He's done his due diligence with the Rays. The Rays have had a good farm system for many years as well. I mean, he's worked his 14, 15 years in baseball in total. So I think Chan Bloom would have been my first choice, but we'll see. I mean, this could turn ugly. It could be World Series championship in 3 years. I mean, it's hard to believe, but I really think they kind of made the wrong decision, just because I don't know if he knows the scouting and the analytical side of baseball that the game is heading towards.
When Jeff Wilpon said this is the most excited I've ever been, or this is the most excited my father has ever been on a hire, I could almost see like 3 years from now, one of those top 10 worst moves by a baseball team ever made, and like you see that clip of him saying that, and then you go to a bunch of radio personalities and just going, oh my God, Jeff Wilpon, such a, I could just see it. It's coming.
Yeah, Mike Francesca's little reaction a couple of years, that'll be fun. But I don't know. I mean, he'll have to. I think he also said he wants to bring in a couple assistant general managers. Some teams have a couple, but like two. But I just wonder how he's going to build a scout. I don't know if he's going to rebuild a scouting department. The scout. How that's going to work. How he's going to even handle contracts. I mean, just think with he's going to work with other agents now. So that's going to be a challenge for him. So I think he's got the challenges on the baseball side. And also, understanding how it takes to run a farm system, how it takes to, do contract. Obviously, he knows contracts, be an agent, but I just think the day-to-day operations may be a challenge from him from year one or two. So he'll need to bring in an assistant GM that kind of has some familiarity, maybe running the baseball organization. So I think he really needs a lot of mentorship early on to make him successful.
He would, and they do have a couple of guys there in Omar Minaya and J.P. Ricciardi already under contract, so we'll see if the Mets are going to keep those two guys around. I would imagine they would, because of their experience with baseball experience for that matter, let alone being general managers themselves. And we'll see. It's a very, very strange situation, but the hot stove season is now underway, Chris, and again, congratulations on the Reds. I mean, you got so many world championships with your teams. Mike, you probably are putting rings on banners all over your house right now. Red Sox, Patriots.
Well,
I mean, my goodness.
Well, me being down here in Georgia, I mean, it's kind of been neutral. I mean, with the Falcons, I try to be a neutral media member, but obviously deep down, we're still fans of our hometown teams. But what is that? 11 championships since 2002, technically 2001 it was. So, I mean, if the Patriots can pull it off this year, it'll be even more, because the Celtics are talented. The Bruins, are in the playoffs every year. So, it's been pretty fun. Just hope to see people in Braves country or Falcons territory maybe get that last laughter one day, because I know down here they're pretty heartless right now. I think the Braves were the last team in '95 to win a championship down here, and besides the University of Georgia football last year. But it's been sad down here. But never take anything for granted, because Red Sox may go another 108 years without a championship very soon. So while I'm still under 30, I'm enjoying it, my friend.
Absolutely, man. You got to enjoy it. All right. Chris, thanks a lot, man, as always. And when we get the hot stove really cooking up in a couple of weeks, we're going to get you back on here, man.
Absolutely, my friend. I enjoyed it.
All right. Take care.
All right, you too, man.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. That was Chris Hogan of 27 Ounce Baseball. Again, we're talking about the Red Sox and their World Championship. Remember, folks, to follow us here on the social media, Facebook.com/OpenMicProgram, as well as Twitter @OpenMicNJ, and of course, like and subscribe right here to Sports Talk Nation. We will talk to you next time. NFL picks are coming up next. That video will be up soon right here on the Sports Talk Nation. Take care.